Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to my channel. My name is Sajay, and if you've just stumbled across my channel today, welcome, and I hope you do come around a bit more often. Before I go ahead, please hit the like button, subscribe to support my channel, and by all means share this video with your friends and family so that way it gets to be seen by more people. So what do I want to talk about today? Just a random topic. Let's talk about marriage. Interracial marriage and marriage. It's all the same, really. And so I just want to, because I've been asked so many questions over the years, and I just want to talk about marriage and being in an interracial marriage, as I am, in case those of you who don't know, my marriage is, I am basically African born, Nigerian to be precise, and my husband is British born. I'm English, and what more can I say? And what do you want to know? Well, I don't know. You can write and ask me questions, but what would I say advantages, or should I say, let's talk about points in being married or interracial marriages. Well, let's talk about being married. Being married, to me personally, is a beautiful thing. I personally have enjoyed being married to my husband for 29 years, going 30. And we're blessed with 3 wonderful children. And, as a little girl growing up, to be quite honest with you, they often say you get what you want when you're not looking. I wouldn't say I was necessarily looking to get married when I did, but also, I would also say that being married is being one of the most beautiful, exciting things. And God really, really blessed me with a man, or someone, a life partner, who we both enjoy very similar things, be it in terms of food, enjoying whatever the culture of the food is. We both enjoy traveling. We both think alike in terms of when it comes to investments, or how you, because this is very important, how you handle things financially, emotionally. My husband is extremely very loving, very caring, very romantic, and I couldn't ask for more, to be honest, And so, for me personally, I would say that being married is a wonderful thing. Although when you hear certain horror stories, especially depending on the culture or location of what we're saying, because recently I've just been reading, several things through certain channels, regarding some women's marriage experiences in Africa, especially, sometimes in Asia. And let's be honest, I know sometimes people talk about it as if it's because of where the person has come from. Yes, to some extent it can be. Your environment can really change or can really affect who you are. That is for sure. But also, I also argue, and the one that always gets me personally is that, depending on where you are in life, especially those people who claim to have traveled, been exposed, or you're living abroad in a different country, where you come from is not always necessarily the best thing or the best example of a marriage or relationship, or how to live your life. Does that make sense? Like I always say to people, to be honest, before I even had children, I like to ask that God help me, or God helps me, to raise my children with the best of Africa and the best of the West, because neither culture is perfect. And so far, so good. And the thing I love about my family, and being married and being in an interracial family, is the fact that for me personally, I get it, there's people talk about racism, people experience racism, and all that, but let's just talk about in the context. I'm talking from my own personal opinion, and I actually see a lot of these things as positive. And I always say, if you raise your children with confidence, good enough intelligence, it's not to say they will not or may not experience difficulties here and there, but they will never be the victims. They will be able to deal and conquer any and every situation. Does that make sense? And that comes with good standing upbringing, and I see interracial marriages with great advantage, because there you are, you have two wonderful cultures, whether you're white and black or black on black, Zambian and Nigerian, Ghanaian and Nigerian, Ghanaian and British, American and Ghanaian, whatever the mixture is. For me personally, it's a wonderful thing. Like in my family, I'm quite lucky, like I said, even before we had children and after, my husband eats literally everything African, even though I must confess, 98% of what I cook at home is colonial cuisine, European, naturally. Occasionally I get a craving. I try and replicate some African soup or whatever. My children, they've been blessed also with the taste bud. They're able to eat literally anything, really. They understand the culture there. I like to think they can deal with any culture, any country in the world, you see. And so, being an interracial marriage, to me, you have that advantage of experiencing two cultures, experiencing two food cultures, experiencing two traditions. Being an interracial marriage, it has a lot of advantages, and to be quite honest, often, personally, I don't even remember. But of course, when you go out sometimes, some people are surprised, especially, I'm glad today there are more and more interracially married couples than there used to be like 30 years ago when I met my husband. But like I was saying, I was very lucky in the early stages and all throughout that marriage till COVID came. We liked to travel as a family, even when the kids were young. As we had the first child, the second one, and the third, we all always traveled. And so that, again, was always a dream of mine as a way of exposing and widening my children's perspective on life. And for me, I know it's not everybody who can, but I have always not taken it for granted and considered it a great privilege. And when I mean traveling, we were always traveling first class or business class, staying in the best hotels all over the world. And even when we got married initially in Nigeria, and we left to come back in the UK, where we bought our first property together and all that sort of thing, the first place my husband went to work, we traveled to, is a place called Kiribati. Most people don't even know. I didn't even know about Kiribati. It's spelled Kiribati. Okay, Kiribati, I believe, if I'm not wrong, I think there's no, it's another country we lived in, but Kiribati is in the South Pacific. In fact, they use their local money called a Malangeni, and they use Australian dollars too. So can you imagine? That was an eye-opener for a young girl, as I suppose as I believe that I was already. But it was a wonderful experience, and actually I amazed myself, because it's not that easy. People don't realize that when people see you and think, oh my gosh, she's confident, she's this. These are all part of, remember, you're so far away from family, you were literally thrown into it. But what kept me going, apart from my God, was that I had a very loving husband, and I still do. And my husband and I often, made a lot of things that kept us going together. And little did I know, all those years actually helped to bond us together. And a place like Kiribati, most people won't even know. If I'm not wrong, I think it's south or not, is it not west of Fiji? It's a different country from Fiji, but well away from rest of the world, to be honest. And back in the day, it's still the issue. I mean, the same situation. We flew all the way from London. I remember us stopping a bit in Los Angeles. My husband wanted me to, I had a good look around California, took me to Disney. It was wonderful, wonderful experience. And of course, we didn't have children at that time. And so we continued to Hawaii. And then remember, for those of you who haven't really traveled to that part of the world, from London to Los Angeles was, if I'm not mistaken, between 9 and 10 hours. Then we spent about 4 or 5 days in Los Angeles. Then flew another 5.5 hours to Hawaii. And then from Hawaii, again, that's when the world begins to change. And we've used was it Continental Airline from Hawaii to Fiji Islands. And for me, I used to hear a lot about Fiji. So being in Fiji was like, wow, amazing, very interesting. And of course, in one of the best, surprisingly, it was a travel lodge. I don't know if it's still there, but not the travel lodge like you know it, because travel lodge is often, at least today, associated with like a budget and all that. This was like luxury. Well, in fact, if I'm not wrong, it was the top hotel in Suva. Suva is the capital of Fiji, where we were put in a 5-star hotel where we stayed for a few weeks before we started making it down to Kiribati. And even on the way before Fiji, the plane stopped over in a country called Tuvalu, and their domain registration is .tv. And so very small countries, honestly, you never believe it, but very expensive. So it was Kiribati where I went with my husband. That's where he worked from, and often he would go to Fiji, which was like, basically not like, it was international flying. And Kiribati itself, as of then, was a small country, still is, of, let's say it was 75,000 people. The whole island, from one end to the other, you could cover in just under 1 hour. It was surrounded by sea, the ocean, and if I'm not wrong, it was there back in 1994 that I personally first started hearing about sushi, hearing about tuna. Why? Sushi wasn't even invented into London. Never mind the rest of the world as we know sushi today. But back then, there used to be a lot of Japanese boats. And you ask questions, and they often talked about the reason they used to come to Kiribati was to fish their tuna, which sold very highly. Depending on the kind of tuna, because Japanese, they love tuna, fresh tuna, and all that kind of thing. And that was an eye-opener. And so from being based in Swaziland, we often travel to Suva. But before you get to Suva, you fly more or less like a small plane, like it's your own personal charter, into Nandi. Yeah, you have to fly into Nandi. Nandi is a international airport in Suva, in Fiji. Then you now got a smaller domestic plane to go into Suva. And I love Fiji, and I love Fijian people. I'm not going to lie, it was lovely. And every time we were going to Fiji, it was wonderful, it was exciting. Nice hotel, nice food, nice restaurants. God bless my husband, I enjoyed some of the best restaurants there and all that. So we were there, and then from Kiribati, I remember the Christmas of 1994, one of the best Christmases of my life. Or was it? No, Christmas, 94, I remember. When we decided to go to Australia to spend that Christmas. By then, I was about 5.5 months pregnant with my first son, Michael. And, that was an eye-opener because the plane, we flew from Kiribati all the way to Nandi. Nandi is the not the capital, but where the international airport for Fiji is. And so from there, we now swap planes to fly into a tiny country called Nauru. Nauru. As of that time, Nauru was made up of a population, wait for this, 9,000 people. And I remember my husband telling me, as the plane landed, the big jumbo jet, literally the whole runway from end, start to end was literally like the whole country. I don't know. And somehow, don't ask me, somehow, at the end of this island, it was this very new 5-star hotel with casino everywhere. I don't know. But it was an interesting experience too. I enjoyed it. We had to stop there overnight and connect to our flight to Australia and have the most wonderful Christmas. I'll never forget, Christmas and New Year of 1994 in Sydney, Australia. And so with that, during those days, sorry I went to a bit off point, but that was, going to Kiribati was my own beginning of, getting, when we talk about travel, especially back in the day, I'm not talking about just America or UK or Spain, I'm talking about real travel, seeing the world, going to places like Christmas Island, Solomon Islands, Cook's Island, Vanuatu, Papua New Guinea, I mentioned Nauru, Tuvalu, quite a few islands. I think we've touched about 9 of those Australasian countries within a year or so. God bless my husband. And in between that, of course, whenever possible, we're flying back to the United Kingdom via America. We did a bit of Hong Kong, Singapore, all of that. But anyway, going back to advantages of interracial marriages, one of the things I really love, especially now my kids are grown, is, in fact, to be honest, I live through their eyes, because anybody will be proud to have, when you hear your own child or children tell you, oh, mommy and daddy, you are the best parents ever, that sort of thing. You're doing something right, you're doing a good job. It's not to say it's been easy molding them when they were little or teenagers, but the fact that my children are able to experience various cultures, they all have traveled to well over 50 countries, each of them. There's nothing, no luxury or non-luxury. I say non-luxury, like I always say to people, I like to think I raise children who are not pompous, children who are not arrogant, children who understand and appreciate luxury, which we have provided them. But also, if they find themselves in the deepest of my country, in my great-grandmother's village or hut, they will happily, humbly lay there with me and not look down on anything. Those are the children I'm proud to say I've raised today. They're both all very intelligent, all full of their own wisdom, all, again, I won't say it's because of interracial, but not religion, faith has always been important to me, to us. So in our family, we take our faith seriously too, and I don't just mean talking. And so it's also trying to put your faith into practice, teaching your children how to be respectful, showing them both, and I think having both cultures makes them understand better how to deal not just with their parents, but how to deal with outsiders. Does that make sense? Because, let's be honest, I'll be blunt here. Sometimes in the Western world, even those of you watching this who may be 2 parents from Africa or Asia or whatever, sometimes, to be quite honest, in fact, my daughter used to tell me a lot as a teenager, when they thought I was strict, and they will imply and say to you, oh, you don't even realize how nonchalant some of their peers' parents are, not even, this strict or that. I don't know, but I speak for myself. I'm not claiming to be the perfect mother or anything. Like I always said, I like to use the best of Africa, which is discipline, which is what many of us as parents lack in the Western world. And sometimes I also blame the state, the government, whoever it is, because I know a lot of parents struggle. We all do, we all did, if your kids are younger, where the law or government is always trying to tell you one thing, and because of one or two extreme cases, and you are trying to do another. And I will not paint over it and say it's that easy. But God has, I always say to someone asked me recently, how did you do it? Because unfortunately, a friend of, or not a friend, an acquaintance, we all went to university. The son somewhere in London is now in prison, You know, you can't blame any parent, even if your child, God forbid, ended up, not doing as well as they should. Because I know, unless they're crazy, every parent out there, especially if they're of African or Asian descent, do not take discipline, education lightly. But there's only so much. I say to the person, all you can do is be you, because their children are still young. Don't let go of the principles and values you know, and back it up with prayers. That's all you have to do. Because all of us who've been through this journey of raising children, today everybody sees, like my son, who's an engineer, made the first class as a mechanical engineer, made a distinction in manufacturing engineering, got fantastic jobs and still working in a fantastic company, contributing wonderfully. It wasn't easy raising them and molding them to what you have to, but you have to keep at it. Keep at it. It's, to get anything good, it's never easy. The same person today, most times, it warms my heart. Even when you're not expecting it, they will come and pat you and say, thank you, mommy, for doing this, or for being strong when I did the more. Thank you. I can see what you meant about this. And they're the ones telling you about somebody they met at work, or somebody who doesn't even know how to behave. And this was exactly what you were trying to raise your children to be: socially sensitive, to be emotionally sensitive to other people, to learn to show empathy, to learn to show respect, compassion, and irrespective of age, financial position, whatever it is, one thing I personally lay straight to my children is respect, and respecting each other and anyone you meet, especially being of an African descent, where some of the practices we have in Africa, as far as I'm concerned, I'm glad I'm hearing it from different corners, can be a little toxic, where some people abuse certain things, all because of maybe a sibling's age or somebody's age, and people are raised with the wrong mentality. And you don't stop for once to ask yourself, if you were in the other person's shoes, would you like somebody else to try to control you or treat you this way? As my father used to say, my late father, nobody chose to be first, last, middle child or whatever. But you see, in Africa or even Asia, some of these practices, which there's nothing wrong with it if it's practiced well, but what you tend to find out is that when it suits the people it works for, they will tell you more about respect than the respect they are willing to give another person who's older than them, or even a younger person younger than them who's respecting them. So with this, one of the things, like I said, trying to raise my children with the best of Africa and the West, is that I raise my children to treat each other with love and equality. Okay? It's very important, because sometimes as parents we mean well, but unfortunately when you raise children a certain way from birth and it's ingrained in their brain, sometimes you even find siblings, without even knowing it, trying to treat another sibling the way they would not even treat their own children. And often those siblings don't even remember that the sibling they are, unnecessarily fighting with is somebody you should love each other. And you will not even, if you're a normal person, you will not even treat a friend the same way you're treating your own sibling. So these are some of the toxic kind of things I didn't like, I respect it when it's used appropriately, but like we know, some people like to abuse things that only work in their favor. So being an interracial marriage, saying it commonly, I love the exchange of culture. I love the fact that my children are very enriched, even apart from with the wider part of it, apart from white and black. My kids, whether you're Asian or white, blue, black, they respect and love. And when we travel, we love to eat whatever food culture we've traveled to. I mean, before COVID, we were, as if we knew, we went to Brazil, we went to Singapore, we went to Thailand, we traveled around the world, mostly Asia, and we, just like anything else, and you appreciate people, you treat people with respect and dignity. Money doesn't matter. Whatever class you want to call it, it doesn't matter. People are people, okay? You treat people the way you want to be treated. And to me, there's nothing more appealing than humility, not arrogance. Arrogance is ugly. Arrogance is unnecessary. Arrogance brings negativity. So it's wonderful. And in our home, I'm also proud I don't know about other interracial marriages, but I love the variety of food that we're able to enjoy. And God bless me too, because I came into my marriage with all my heart and mind. I made it a duty to learn. In fact, as my husband often overpraises it, there are hardly any English, Italian, even Chinese, some Indian, anything, any European food I can cook. So in our family, we do enjoy literally almost every night there's a new or different thing, because I love to cook fresh and we love to eat fresh. And as a culture, even when we've been to Nigeria in the past, and my kids, we do miss Nigeria. It's just unfortunate the insecurity in the country doesn't give one much hope. But when we do, we love our suya, we love our, they call it swallow. My kids, they eat anything. So, and we do the same, even in Europe, believe it or not, our foods in Europe can be very different. Whether we went to Austria, Germany, Switzerland, Belgium, France, of course we go to France a lot, though not since COVID. Wherever country we go to, we love the food culture, and I like the way our family imbibes culture, and we're all genuinely interested, even on television. Anything documentary, new culture, before you know it, we are flying out to that part of the world. And one of my personal best experience with my family was, like I said, was it 2019 or 2008? I can't remember. But that was a year, the first holiday, we did it in Europe. And so we traveled through Germany, Austria, Italy, widely around Italy. Yeah, then later that summer was the time we went to Brazil. Going to Brazil was also wonderful. One of the countries I always heard of as a little girl. And our children, we all enjoyed it. And one of the greatest highlights, we flew into Rio de Janeiro, and we spent just on a couple of days, under 3 weeks. And of course in Rio, we went to restaurants, but we were also seeking out restaurants to eat. Even my last boy, Jonathan, had a haircut in a Brazilian hairdressers. But the highlight was we spent 5 or 6 nights in Rio de Janeiro, and we flew domestically, even though it's domestic, but it's a long flight, 4.5 hours through Sao Paulo. We flew to Amazonia, which is Amazon, basically, where the name Amazon came from. And we spent Easter there. That was one of the greatest. And even though we went to a church, I think it was a Roman Catholic church, and the service was in Portuguese, but luckily, because it was Easter, we were also, it would have been the other way around, summer in Europe, and it was Easter in Brazil. And we really, really enjoyed it and followed in there. And, we like to go to places and walk around like locals. And so my husband organized this wonderful boat tour that took us to the villages of the Amazon people, the real Red Indians. I might be able to share some photos or videos sometime in the near future. So, all these things, one might say, why? I think part of what drives us traveling around the world, I myself, God's grace, having seen 98 or more countries around the world, some have been back twice, thrice, It's the fact that as an interracial family, you are always interested, like I said, in other people's culture, in other people's food, in other people's how they do things, And I like to also think your mind is not closed off, like a typical. I'm not saying all families, but I've heard it even amongst fellow, Africans, and you cringe and you just keep quiet. And when they talk about other people, they don't even realize how horrible it sounds, because if a white person said the same thing, you say, oh my God, this person is racist, and you're talking about other people as if you and your family, because of your color, is the only thing that exists, and that is wrong. People are people, and it's so wonderful when you look around the world. Even back in the 90s, when we went to Australia a couple of times, we even lived in Australia a little, come 2000, is when you see a wonderful mix of couples as interracial couples. And even in Nigeria itself, I'm looking across social media, you're seeing a lot of younger and more people, more open and understanding that what matters in a marriage is the person. A marriage where you love each other equally and respect each other equally. It's not about color. It's not about whatever else you're looking for. It's about someone that you and her or him share similar values, similar understanding, and you both have similar aspirations. Okay? And making the right compromises between you without losing yourselves. On this note, that's just a little bit about me and my interracial marriage, and I look forward to sharing a bit more with you guys. And thank you for stopping by. My name is Angie Blum. Please hit the like button, subscribe to my channel so you get notification every time I upload a new video. And by all means, please share this with your friends and family. And wherever you are in the world, it's a wonderful Sunday here in London. It's been very wonderful. And right now, believe it or not, it's past 7. Yes, we're in spring getting into summer. So even when it's nighttime, it's a bit bright. So on this note, I hope you've had a wonderful Sunday wherever in the world you're watching. And please do stop by again. And bye.